Namaskar and welcome to the very first episode of the Amol's Young Talent podcast series named Mentors and Pioneers in the Fields of OBGYN, a platform where experience meets enthusiasm, curiosity meets wisdom, and OBGYN being a specialty where science, compassion, and skill come together to bring new life into this world. Who better to begin this journey than a stalwart who has inspired generations of gynecologists, Dr. Anjali Chipnis Madden?
Namaskar.
In the quiet strength of a healer's hands lies the wisdom of decades and the compassion of a mother. Not just a doctor, but a guiding star in the universe of obstetrics and gynecology, where science meets sensitivity, precision meets patience. There stands a teacher who has shaped generations. In every labor room that she entered, she has witnessed thousands of cries of the newborns and probably an equal number of first cries of the residents during the exams. Hope arrived with her, and in every student that she taught, confidence was born. Her words carry the calm of experience, her presence, the grace of dedication, and her journey, the brilliance of a lifetime devoted to women's health. Legends nurture both life and learning, and that is why today, when we speak of commitment, clinical excellence, one name gently rises above the rest. Dr. Anjali Chitnis, Madam. We welcome you so much, Madam, for this
Thank
podcast
you.
series.
Thank you.
Madam, I would want to know why did you choose obstetrics and gynecology as your career branch?
Wow. That your question is taking me back to my childhood. See, I used to go with my aunties and my mother for their deliveries in Vadia Hospital. And I used to wait there and watch these obstetricians taking rounds, taking interest in the patient, talking with the patients, and the paraphernalia behind them, the houseman, the registrar, and the sisters. And then once I saw one or two operations and deliveries. They were Dr. B.N. Purandare and Dr. Kamal Sathe from Sholapur. And they, they were my ideals. And they made me think. Then I was in MBBS. I was doing MBBS. And then I realized, no, I have to be like them. I have to be a gynecologist. I have to be doing a surgery. I have to be doing a delivery. So that is how it stimulated me to take gynecology. And then I took gynecology. I used to pass by Chowpatty and I used to see SOS Hospital. And they said, oh, I have to work with Dr. B.N. Purandare. And I was very lucky in my registrar's post. I was his registrar for almost 2.5 years.
Yes.
So this made me choose the branch. After MBBS, I took gynec obstetric. I worked in Vadia Hospital almost for 9 years, doing registrar's post, lecturer's post, research post. And I learned so many things because they were all stalwarts in the hospital. They wanted me to settle down in Mumbai, but somehow or other I came back and then I started my practice in Sholapur. And then I joined the medical college there because I was academically quite interested. So I joined the medical college. So this was my journey from childhood right up to now.
And to the current stature of the reputed obstetrician gynecologist that you are, it has been quite an interesting one. And feels like you were born to be a gynecologist, an
Yeah,
obstetrician gynecologist.
I am. And even sometimes they ask me, are you going to be a gynecologist in next birth? I said, yes, I'm going to be a female and I want to take gynecology as my main branch and I'll be a gynecologist. So I love my branch. I'm very happy. I'm very happy even if there is hard work, a struggle, odd hours of working. But I'm very happy and I'm satisfied with my work and my branch.
Madam, what was your OBGYN practice like in those 1980s?
1980s, that was a very different era. It was an era of clinical diagnosis. Investigations were very less. It was more of history. Like our teacher used to tell us that going through the history, you should come to a probable diagnosis. She used to say, one of my teachers, she used to say that the eye of a finger of a gynecologist is at the tip of these two fingers. So that was a very different era than this. We never had investigations like ultrasonography, CT. We never had all these IVF and all. We had fixed duties. Now you have fixed duties. We don't have, we used to work for five days together doing emergencies. Our teachers, they used to come in, they were busy in their practice. So they used to come in the night during emergencies, and that's the time they used to teach us how to apply forceps for cesarean deliveries, how to take this stitch, that stitch. So this is how we learn. Now, ectopic. During our days, it was clinical diagnosis. The patient used to rupture the ectopic, massive hemorrhage inside, and that's the time we used to do colpopuncture and diagnose. Now it's totally different. Now you people diagnose ectopic before it is ruptured. This is investigations. The instrument technology has improved so much. But in a way, what happens is a patient comes to you, and before you touch the patient, the probe goes inside.
Yes, madam.
And that is how you go. So during our time, the doctor-patient relationship was very different, which is very different now. Another thing which I observed was, which is very good nowadays for this recent job, this generation, is you people have group practice. That's a very good thing. For 30, 35 years, I struggled alone doing deliveries, looking after post-operative patients. It was hard struggling all for the practice. Nowadays, it's very easy.
Yes, divided work is easier to
It's
manage.
easier, yeah,
Yes,
right.
it's
So
very
that
easy
was,
to manage.
I really prefer this group practice. So there are differences.
Madam, do you believe that the cesarean section rate has definitely increased over the years to the current scenario?
Cesarean section rate is increased, especially in institutions where there are patients coming, complicated patients coming, or the doctors, they don't want to take risk, and so they transfer. So the institutional rate is increased. It is increased because the technology has improved a lot. You can diagnose fetal distress, you can diagnose baby at risk so early, and you can treat these babies. So technology, ultrasonography diagnosis of placenta previa, accreta, percreta,
Yes.
it's so easy. And with this, all these technologies, the rate has increased because we are trying to reduce the mortality and morbidity of the babies and the mother.
Yes.
So it has increased. The lifestyle has also changed.
Yes.
So the patient's approach, mainly those very educated
Yes.
patient class, so their approach to delivery is very different.
Yeah, LSCS on demand has increased.
This is LSCS on demand. So this is increased. So overall, lifestyle changes are there, diabetes, hypertension. So because of all these things, their incidence has increased.
Definitely increased. Madam, one thing, if I would give you an option that you could get from the old era to the new era, what would it be?
I will like them to be sincere, sincerity, ethical practice, patience, lot of patience, and the patient-doctor relationship. To understand the patient, you have to spend little time with the patient,
Yes.
so that the patient believes that you are coming to the diagnosis. Maybe you have differential diagnosis, or your diagnosis goes little wrong sometimes, but she has faith in you, and then she will not go for litigations.
Yes. So building a rapport with the patient is very
Is
important.
very important.
Spending time
very
with the
important.
patient is
Spending little time, because nowadays, the young generation has got many attachments. They are attached to so many hospitals.
Yes.
They do Caesar, deliver out the baby, rush to the another hospital, apply forceps, go to the third hospital and do a vaginal hysterectomy.
Yes.
That is not done. You
Yes.
spend little more time with the patient.
And madam, if you had to take something from today's generation back to the 1980s, what would it be?
Oh, that's mm, the boldness,
Hmm.
the smartness, the technology. I'll
Yes.
take back the technology, mainly ultrasonography. I'll take back AI.
Yes.
With AI, I'll do infertility practice instead of obstetrics. I'll choose the embryo. AI will choose the embryo. I'll pick up the embryo and I'll do transfers. So
Okay.
that I'll do robotic surgery also.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
what I miss
Uh-huh.
in those
So
days.
you're impressed by today's
Oh, yes.
technology. Yeah.
It helps. It helps you to come to a diagnosis so fast.
Madam, now we move to the third part of our podcast series. What is that one memorable case that is etched in your memory or that changed the way you practiced?
There are many cases which you just keep on remembering them and you want to go back and treat them little differently, or you want to learn something, or you have already learned something from that. I had one case who had MTP outside. Then she came to me with a severe bleeding PV. We thought it's clinically os was open, so we thought it's an incomplete abortion. So we did DNC at that time. And again, third time she came with massive hemorrhage. Second time when we did DNC, we didn't send the material for
Pathology.
histopathology. Third time she came and we could see two small nodular growths in the vagina,
Vagina.
very low down.
Yeah.
And she was massively bleeding from that. And that's the time we realized this must be a choriocarcinoma following the abortion. We took a biopsy at that time. Later on, she kept on bleeding. She kept on bleeding. She had bouts of bleeding. And then we did her internal iliac ligation. Didn't work. We did hysterectomy for her, and then we put her on, when beta ECG reports came, we put her on high doses of methotrexate. And then it was under control. You know, we had a query from blood bank, how many bloods you are giving to this patient. So I really learned that a simple incomplete abortion can be choriocarcinoma, can be a repeat invasive mode. So when you're dealing with some emergency, you have to keep the differential diagnosis in your mind, and accordingly you treat. That patient is still alive. She comes to me, and then every time I have that picture, the way she came bleeding. Another one is a gynec patient. One patient came with infertility. The couple was about to take divorce, thinking that the woman has got problem. I examined the patient. She really had a very small uterus. So even I was doubtful whether she'll conceive. Around 22, 24 years old. I still remember her name also. And I said, yeah, it is little difficult for her pregnancy. So you just don't spend money? Those were the days long back, and we don't have those IVF centers and all. So I said, you better try something else like adoption and all these things. One fine day after 3-4 years, she came to me and I said, did you recognize me? I said, I recognized her. She said, I am pregnant. And she was pregnant 5-6 months. She delivered a full-term baby. And that's the time I realized I should not have given any certificate, you know. So since then, I started giving certificate. There are negligible or very less chances of something like seizure or something like pregnancy. Because your body is not it's not a machine.
Yes.
It's not a machine which keeps on producing one after another cars. Chappa maro and the car comes out. No, your body reacts in a very different way. You don't expect it can happen, but it happens. So while giving certificates or while advising them also, keep it in mind that negligible chance can be a proper chance also.
So we should not completely make it as 0% or 100%.
Yes.
There is always a gray zone that you mean to say.
Yes. Yes.
What do you feel is one mistake that the young doctors must avoid?
According to me, I'm of the old generation. According to me, there are many mistakes. They should not be very arrogant to the patient.
Mm.
So they should not be very arrogant to the patient. Listen to patient carefully.
Yes.
Another one, even if you are very busy, you want to go to attend another case, sit down for 5-10 minutes, write down your notes, whatever
Yes.
you have done. See, even if anything goes wrong, it doesn't matter as long as you are not neglecting.
Yes.
So sit for 5-10 minutes and just write down the notes. You may do very good surgery, there's no problem for that. But the after effects of surgery, who knows?
Yes.
So,
So
you have to pay
documentation
attention.
is also
Very
equally
important.
important.
Documentation is very important and it should be written by the surgeon
Mm. Yes.
better in his own handwriting.
Handwriting. Madam, what would you advise about work-life balance to this young generation?
Young generation, female gynecologists are Durgas today. They are Durga. They have got 8 hands. In a minute, they are there in the labor room delivering a patient. Another 10 minutes, the head comes out and they are there making chocolate cookies for the children.
Yes.
They come back again, suture the episiotomy, go back again and drop the child to the tuition. So, hats off to all female gynecologists. They can manage anything. The male gynecologist is a little bit problem because they do practice well. Coming back home, they just take the newspaper in the hand or they keep on watching the cricket match. So I feel they should also help in the household. So the work balance, home and practice is a understanding between the parents, husband and wife. If
Okay.
both are working.
Yes. 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 If you had to write a prescription of success for the young gynecologist, what would it contain?
I told you, it contains patience, it contains ethical practice, time to spend for the patient. A simple touch
Yes.
is very important. You just pat on her and say, no, everything will be okay. That your word counts a lot.
Good rapport and understanding
Good
to the
rapport with
patient.
the
A
patient.
sense of oneness or the
Yes,
sense that
yes.
belonging to
She
the
should
patient.
realize that you are the one who is
Who will
going
take
to
care
help
of her. Yes.
Yeah, who is going to help her. That is very important. For that, you have to give little bit more time. The last thing is think of yourself also. Think of your own health.
Yes.
You can see many complications in the young generation, working people. So think of your own health and take care of your family. Because once your children grow up, they just go away from you.
Yes.
So
Those days will never
those
come back.
days will never come, which we realize right now. So you don't do that mistake.
Yes.
You take care of the children. You see how she goes to the school. You see how her tiffin is made,
Yes.
how she takes part in the debate in the school. Go and attend the parents' meeting. Those days are not going to come. So that is also very important.
It is basically how we have an attitude towards managing our home, family, and our practice.
Yes.
So we need to maintain a proper balance
Right.
between the three, and we should be giving proper justice to all three.
To all
So that's
all
how we
three,
should
because they are all depending on you.
on you. Yes,
So you have to give a proper
justice towards that.
justice.
Madam, we now come to the most interesting part of our podcast, a rapid fire round.
Hmm.
I'll shoot questions at you, and you have to answer just in one word or a statement.
Okay.
What gives you more satisfaction? The patients delivering vaginally or doing a cesarean section?
Of course, vaginal. Even if it's patient's delivery or it's my delivery, I prefer vaginal delivery.
Okay. If you're doing a night duty, what would you prefer? A cup of coffee or a short nap?
A cup of coffee before the nap and a cup of coffee after the nap.
That's very interesting. One instrument which you cannot practice without.
My 2 fingers. My 2 fingers, I can do examination of the patient. I can diagnose the disease. I can operate and do a vaginal hysterectomy, finding the planes. I can deliver the baby with my fingers.
Yes.
So my 2 fingers.
Great.
Or if you really want an instrument, I love fetoscope. Even if I have the Dopplers and so many things, I love because that that tuck 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 tuck. Oh, that gives me very good. That gives me satisfaction.
Okay.
So I love that.
One mentor who shaped you the most.
One mentor I can't say. My parents. Obstetrics I learned from Dr. A.C. Mehta. That was my teacher. Gynecology I learned from Dr. B.N. Purandare. Leadership I learned from Dr. R.D. Pandit. But if you want 1%, my father.
Okay. Your favorite OBGY surgical procedure.
Vaginal hysterectomy. Undescended vaginal hysterectomy. You people call it as NDVH.
Thank you very much, madam, for those prompt and honest answers. Madam, what do you think of doctor-patient relationship in today's era?
Doctor-patient's relationship is, it's a balance. See, like seesaw you have. There is a fulcrum. Long back when we started our practice, or even before that, the doctor was up
Yes.
and the patient was down. So they used to listen to everything. They were their family guides. They had family problems solved with the doctor. So doctor was a god to them. Later on, around 90s or 2000, it became almost the same. The doctor's views and the patient's ideas and response was almost the same. And now the patient is up. They know more because of Google and technology and reading and all these things. And poor doctor is nowhere. So we have to change. And this is how I told you for the young generation why they should change. This is the reason why they should change. And I told you they have to change and do a very ethical practice. Have patience. Talk with the patient.
Yes.
Take care. So that is why now we have to change. It's our time to change. Technology has changed the patients. They know they can go to the court.
Madam, when you came to Sholapur, why did you think of starting a society like Solapur Obstetrics and Gynecological Society?
That was way back in 1980. I finished my registrar's post. I finished my lecturer's post, finished my MD in Wadia Hospital, Mumbai. And I came back to Sholapur for practice. There in Wadia, we had lot of discussion, lectures, research. So we were exchanging our knowledge, improving our knowledge, like CMEs. Why we come to CMEs? This is because you have to know the recent knowledge. When I went back, I said there are very good obstetricians in Sholapur, doing very well practice, operating, everything was very nice. But there was no academic activities. And I wanted to bring all of them together under one umbrella.
Yes.
And that is how I started Solapur Obstetric and Gynecological Society with the help of few seniors, with the help of my colleagues. And we started the society. We started a society with no money and with 10, 15 members.
Yes.
And today, the society has grown so much academically. Absolutely, it's a rich society now. I'm very happy that I started it in 1980s and 84. I think 84 we started.
Yeah, madam. It is the strong roots that madam has planted in Sholapur that we are seeing its sweet fruits now. And that is how we are able to enjoy all the academic activities and exchange knowledge with each other and grow up together with each other. So that was a very nice gesture of you to have thought of that at that time. And that is how it has, the small seed that you implanted at that time has grown into a big banyan tree today. Yes. I think we have come to the far end of our podcast, and we have had a nice time speaking to you, madam. You have guided us very well, and I'm sure that these things will help us. It will help us bring our talent up and to channelize it properly so that we can use it in practice for the benefit of the patients, to maintain a good work-life balance, and to become better human beings as a whole. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Pratibha.
madam.